Hello everyone, my name is Bagus Ananda Nosa. I'm from Iki class with a 4-digit number 1041. On this occasion, I will be explaining about the unit and feature testing code on Laravel Framework for IS testing and implementation course. So let's get started. So on here, let's start with the unit test first because that is the smallest form of software testing. So let's start from the unit test. So these three functions are the previously added function from the GitHub code. So yeah, this is all the function, the previous function, and this is the added function that I added for this assignment, which is the unit testing. So this is the function that I added for the calculator unit test. So I'll explain some of them, all of them actually. So the first one is divide. It's a very simple function about division. So you pass a parameter a and parameter b, and then return a value of a parameter a divided by parameter b. So it's very simple and very easy. The next one is modulus. Again, it's the same thing. It returns a value of a modulus between parameter a and parameter b. So modulus is basically a remainder of a division of a value. So yeah, that is the second one. And then the power. This is a very simple, again, all of this unit testing is very simple return value, so just a very simple unit testing. A power, passing the same parameter a and parameter b, and then returning the value of a power of parameter a to the power of a parameter b. And the next one is square root, which only passes a parameter a because we don't need the parameter b. So I added a simple conditional statement here. So if a, the parameter a, is less than 0, which is not possible in a square root condition, it should throw an exception, an error exception which says cannot calculate square root of a negative number. So basically it forces the user to only input a positive value. And then finally just returning the square root function, the value which uses the square root function, passing the parameter a. Okay. The next one is sin, cos, tan, so trigonometry. So I added only one parameter, only a parameter, and then returning the sin, cos, and tan value of the parameter a. And I round the value into 4 numbers. So that makes sure the number is not too long, because if I didn't round the number, it would be just too long and it would just cause an error. So yeah, that is all the unit testing for the calculator. So sin, cos, tan for the last 3, rounded out into 4 numbers. And let's conduct, oh yeah, sorry. This is the test case. So that was the function, the helper, the function of the calculator, and this is the actual file, the code for the testing. So the helper test, calculator helper test. Again, the previous testing cases, I commented each of them, so it didn't mix with my test cases. So all of these test cases are the same as this function. So for each of these functions, there is a test case for them. So for divide, modulus, and etc. until this trigonometry, all of them have their own test cases. So for here, I use a multiple test cases. So for example, I use test multiple divide, which have multiple cases. For example, 2 divided by 2 is 1, 10 divided by 5 is 2, and etc. Which with all these test cases. The first parameter over here, which is the a parameter, is the first value. This is the b parameter, which is the second value. And then expected value is the expected result of the operation, which in this case is the division operation. And for each is used for this each use case test cases. So it'll make sure to test each and every test cases available here, which with the corresponding parameter. And then the result will be asserted equal, so it will check whether the final result is equal to the expected result. And so the calculator helper, that is the function, the file that we want to test, using what function? The divide function in this case, and passing the two parameters, parameters A and parameters B. And it'll test it, and then yeah, it'll show the result. It is the same thing basically for each and every test cases here. It's just the difference is only in the function name and the function that we're testing. And for the calculator helper, this is the exact same thing. We're taking from this helper class. Okay, that is the divide, and this is the modulus, again with the same multiple cases. For example, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and it has no remainder, it has no modulus, so the modulus is 0, whereas 5 divided by 2 has a modulus of 1, so etc, etc. It again tested each of the test cases on the modulus function. And then to the power function, exact same thing. Square root, exact same thing, each and every of these test cases. Sin, cos, and tan. So each and every of this has the same workflow. It tests multiple test cases, and then it tests it using an assert equal, making sure the final result is the same as the expected result. So let's just test the unit test. So the command for the unit test is php artisan test, and then dash dash filter. So we want to filter the only file that we want to test, which in this case is calculator helper helper test. Okay. Oh, calculator helper test. Okay, so I was entering the wrong file name. Sorry for that. Artisan test filter calc helper helper oh god test. Okay, so I was entering the wrong file name. Sorry for that. So this is the test result of the unit test. So this command php artisan test, so saying that we want to run the test cases, but we want to filter which test cases that we want to run. So in this case, I only run the unit test on calculator helper test. So we filter only this file. And as you can see here, there are 7, as I mentioned, 7 test cases. And then all of those 7 test cases pass the test. And for example, this multiple divide, modulus, power, and etc. until the multiple tan, all of these test cases pass the unit testing. So it is equal to the expected value. Okay, so that's the unit test. It's passed, it's successful. Now let's continue to the feature testing. So for the feature testing, I use this calculator UI, very simple. It is already provided in the GitHub code previously. So this is basically just a very simple calculator. So 1 plus 1, 2, and then if I minus 1 minus 1, 0. So very simple feature testings that I did here. So there are 2 feature tests that I did, which are, the first one is test add operation and subtract operation. So add, subtract operation. Okay, so those 2 very simple feature testing. So it is in the same class, feature calculator test. I commented all of the unnecessary code, and then I added these 2 function as the test cases. Okay, so let's break it down. There are multiple steps here. So if you want to do a feature testing, there are multiple steps. The first one is checking the URL is properly accessed by the user, which in this case, if I refresh this, sorry, let me just, okay. So the first one is user entering the URL and then accessing the route of the calculator. So this basically says that making sure the user sees this page, this calculator page. Okay. So getting a route, the calculator route. So it is in the web. Oh no, I didn't mean to do that. Web.php, and then this one, the route, the calculator application, the very simple application. So I did a name, so basically saying this route, I call it a name with calculator. So the same thing with dashboard. So if I access dashboard, there we go. So I added a name for the calculator to make it accessible. There we go. Okay, so making sure the user access the correct URL and returning the HTTP OK response, and making sure the user sees this element, kalkulator sederhana. So making sure the user sees this heading or title of the calculator app. So that is the first step, and the next step is user inputting numbers on this field. So the data, this is a dummy data for the test case. So for the A value, the first value over here, say we enter a 5. So let's say enter a 5 like that, and then the second value we enter 3 like that, and the operation is add. So make sure the operation is add, and then the user would click submit, right? So that's why store the data and then post the data using this submit operation. Okay, and then we did that, and then it shows a value over here. And then the third step is ensuring this value is seen by the user and ensuring that the feature, the result is correct. So ensuring the result is correct. So ensuring the user sees the value over here, and ensuring that the value is 8, basically. So this is a very simple feature test. And then it's basically the same thing with the subtraction operation. The only difference is just the number. It can be any number basically, so yeah, it doesn't really matter. And the only difference is the operation. We change the operation to subtract, and then it goes through the same exact steps. So making sure the user sees the calculator sederhana element, and then the user inputting the numbers, and then putting a subtraction operation, store the data on the database, and then checking the result, making sure the user sees the result. So let's try and do that. 4 and yep. Oh, sorry, 14 minus 10. Oh, that's why. Sorry for that. So 14 minus 10, making sure the user sees this result. So hasil 4. Okay. So that is a very simple feature testing. So these two codes basically share the same exact structure. The only difference is the operation. This one is an add operation, and this one is a subtract operation, and the exact same step. So checking the URL access, user input numbers, and then ensuring the result is correct. So the exact same structure, but with different operation for the feature test. Okay. And lastly, let's just test the feature test. So PHP artisan test filter, and then the name of the file, feature calculator test, and there we go. It passed all the tests, the add operation and the subtract operation. All of these features are passed. So that's basically it for the unit and feature testing for my assignment. So it is very simple. For the unit and feature testing, I use the calculator use cases. So for the unit test, I use the calculator, and the feature test, I also use the calculator UI. Okay. Okay, so that's basically it from me. That is for the unit and feature testing for IS testing and implementation course. So thank you.